All right, everybody. I want you to give a warm welcome to Dr. Chris Zaino. He's a chiropractor that I worked with fresh out of school. One of the biggest mentors back then as well as right now. And this guy, I mean, he's talked about things with me. He's inspired me. He's mentored me. And what we're going to talk about and what we did talk about today was a lot of mindset stuff. So when we say mindset stuff, what is it? We basically just had this genuine conversation back and forth. There's this flow of paradigm shifts, fear of failure, talking about excuses, who we are, things that people are capable of. We talked about cars a little bit. The content in this podcast episode is profound. And what we're asking you to do as well, because Dr. Chris and I, we want to do more, on this platform. We really want you to be able to give us honest feedback. If there's something that you grabbed from this podcast, please let us know, because there are so many hidden gems in this. We threw a whole bunch out with like a shotgun pump. We pulled the trigger and there's tons of spray here. We need to make sure that we allow this thing to really drive home, to give you that inspiration, that motivation to really hit that next level in your life, whether that's in health or business. So be prepared to have a pen and paper, or take notes on your phone as you're listening to this. You'll probably have to listen to this a couple times. Again, the information in here is laid on pretty thick, but I promise you this is going to be a super influential podcast. And again, we're going to do a lot more of these. So if you have anything that you gain from this, etc., just find us on Instagram. You know where to find me. And then Dr. Chris Zaino, Zaino. You can find him on Instagram as well. And then just DM us. Let us know what you liked, what you didn't like. It's totally fine too. It's constructive criticism. And we'll be able to shoot more episodes for you. So strap in and enjoy. All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Doc Jacque Show. I've got somebody who I've been wanting to get on here for a while. It's Dr. Chris Zaino, man. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thanks, Dr. J. It's good. So we have a history.
Yeah, so he was the first office I worked in coming out of chiropractic school. So, I always knew that I wanted to work or live in Texas as I was going through chiropractic school. Then it was just this weird thing I always envisioned, like having a son playing football in Texas.
Yeah.
And now I would never let him play football. But so I mean, we had a bond that we kind of established right there. We became bros basically through working together, motivating each other back and forth with bodybuilding, with working out. Obviously, you could tell, Dr. Z works out just a wee bit. But yeah, man, so it's been a blessing that you've been in my path.
I think, something we could share with people. During that time, we had the largest volume clinic in the history of the profession. And so I think the reason why we're doing a humble brag here, because it's really for everybody who's watching, because I think what we could distill from this is there were certain principles. Like, I want you to understand, like, nothing's luck. What's luck or what's a miracle? It's something that we really can explain, but it's really actual laws happening. There's predictable laws that are happening, and we may unconsciously, competently doing them, right? So there was clearly laws at work to become one of the most, the highest volume. And what do you mean volume? So average wellness clinics, like say chiropractic clinic, what was like 100 a week, and we were like 2,500. We were just 25xing it all out of one location. And maybe we could talk about some of the laws, looking back and distilling some of those success principles. And this is where what we're saying now, it could be transmuted into those of you guys that are watching in any area of your life, whether it be relationship, your health, your business, your finances, where you could say these are laws, meaning that it works for everybody. And so maybe we could distill some of those concepts like you were talking before, and on how we were getting there. I wish I could tell you it was process and procedure. I think that's very important. But there's a lot of other offices that hate the process and procedure. And I really think it was our mental capacity, our conviction of what we did, are coming from the heart, coming from inspiration, not motivation, to be able to build a phenomenon. It was just a phenomenon. What a beautiful time, chapter of my life. And I'm very grateful that you're a part of it. And I really think some of the concepts there, if you're watching this and you have your own business, family, or just even personal, I really think we could apply those to your life very sufficiently today.
Yeah, and that was one of the things too that obviously we learned a lot, and there's a lot of your patient base down there it was like a giant family, 2,000 plus. There was so many people. Everyone was just very tight knit, and it was just, I don't know, it was awesome. In terms of like protocols and procedures, yeah, we had, in my opinion, we had the best of the best, because why not? But from an energetic standpoint, if I had like a shitty day, or if I was like upset for no reason, whatever, then like I would have this repelling energy, and then a new patient wouldn't show up, or somebody wouldn't re-sign for a plan. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And then when we figured out how to harness that, and like, whoa, let's do that like internal self-evaluation, be like, I'm mentally pushing people away. Now let's change that and bring people in. And it can happen like that. We would talk about something like a morning huddle at like 6 a.m. And then by like 7 a.m., the shit would happen. We're like, that's awesome.
The way the practice was like a finely tuned violin, right? I was going, so, I mean, any little thing you would change it and it would immediately, how like it manifests, like, but I mean, it immediately would show the results immediately. So that just shows that when there's low variables, meaning that things are in place, systems are in place where you really just tweak any little variable and it makes a direct impact or a direct result. And a lot of times in our lives, we fail to make decisions. I really think this is, let's bring this into someone's life. I think it comes down to boundaries. All right. It's saying yes to yeses, hell yes, and no's to things that don't serve you. And I remember, Dr. J, remember when we sat down and we made our ideal patient, our ideal avatar. And what that means is, so you could use this in your life. I know Dr. J, I didn't tell him this, but we would think of a patient and we would say, who's one of our favorite patients or favorite people that come in? Because remember, Dr. J says, if we were in a bad mood, it would affect it. Well, there were some patients that when the patient came in, we would be lit up. And so we would think of that patient, and then we would list all the characteristic traits of that patient that made us feel they were a wonderful patient. And what we were doing in that exercise is we were literally seeing the reflection of our true characteristics, right? Because we like people who are very similar at. So, Buzz, right? Buzz.
Yep, that's exactly who I was thinking about.
By the way,
Mary Lou,
Mary Lou had passed away, and Buzz just got married. And this guy, he's like, he comes in, he's 85 years old. He goes, I'm like a teenager. He's like, we exercise naked together. This is Buzz. He lost a lot of weight. He's like, I love exercise naked. He's like, I'm like a teenager. And this is a guy who's 85 years old, and he was like Santa Claus 100% of the year. Buzz, how you doing? He goes, better and better, better and better. And he would shake your hand. And Dr. J, he's big guy. He would shake your hand and pull you in and always throw you off balance. This guy was a powerhouse.
He's a beast.
It was here. And so what was it? Well, he was positive. He was loving. He was sincere. We loved the relationship he had with his wife of 52 years, Mary Lou. Yeah. And they would sit. I have a picture. And they would do their rehab and hold hands, and he had reverence for her and respect for her. And there was all these qualities. So what I'm seeing is a reflection of what I desire in my heart. So Dr. Jane, I would like, we want to surround ourselves with those type of people. So we develop our system that really weeded out people who weren't like that. And, we're not asking for perfection, but like people. So even in your life, when was the last time you sit down and said, who are these people in my life that light my day up? I could have a bad day and I'm lighting up, not being codependent, but I love being around these people. And it could be even, you don't even have to know them physically. It'd be a podcast you want or a celebrity you like. So, and you're able to distill, because when you write that list out of the qualities you like or what makes them exciting or special to you, you're really writing out your values. So when we look at people and the patients we love, that's how we got our values. Because a lot of times, if I told you guys, I want you to write down your values, a lot of times we put down success 101 answers, right? Like, like it sounds good. It sounds like honest, everybody else.
Truth.
But if I'm honest, be like, this person's positive. They have health as a priority. They invest in their health. That means they took money out of their pocket and they paid for their health. They didn't care what insurance paid for or not. They were engaged. They came to all our talks. They were engaged. They asked questions. They were happy. They were lifetime members. Because for us as wellness doctors to make an impact in someone's life, it's not very fulfilling for me or Dr. J to help you out for a week or for 2 weeks. Yeah, it's great. You feel better. But what gives us our purpose in life is that we're able to help you and all following generations, your spouse, your kids, to see kids, teenagers now, like we know we're making an impact in the quality of your future life. So they're indoctrinated in health, what true health is in their life. They made it a part of their life. And even with all the stuff that goes in their life and the excuses and the circumstances and COVID and whatnot, they showed up because it was a pillar. And it's like, that's where this kind of family thing came from. And we noticed when we had those people that we surround ourselves by, what Dr. Jacque was saying, they were forgiving to us like family when we didn't have such a good day.
Mhm.
You know, when I was short, when I was pissed off, when I was tired, when I was becoming a victim, when I was having a pity party, when I was being a quote little bitch, like I had patients that they were forgiving of me,
Yeah.
where they understood me because you almost had a family dynamic. So I really think, just to really like kind of how to help you guys out there, a lot of times we allow anything into our life.
Mhm.
And if you see your life as a room with only one door, and whoever enters that door, they're in that room of your life forever,
Yeah.
you would have a really big bouncer in the front of that door to determine who do I want to let in my life. And I think those relationships we have are crucial. And as you self-develop and evolve as a spirit and a human being, because you should be different than you are 10
Always.
years
Yeah.
ago. It's okay that certain people are in your life for a day, a season, or a lifetime. Like, it's okay that you vibrate out and just don't really relate with people anymore. It's okay,
Yeah.
and without guilt or shame. So I thought that was real interesting, Dr. J, when you talked about it. These were the factors that build a culture
Mhm.
that I think took us to levels that people say that were impossible, or to
Yeah.
be able to experience such a beautiful chapter in our lives and helping so many people in that aspect. And I could tell you, well, what happened, how come it's like that now, is because my cloud moved. I just wanted to go and make an even bigger impact around the world with that as well. So
Yeah.
I definitely appreciate that time as well. So let's get into some of those topics you were talking about, inspiration and all the things you were talking about. I think it'd be useful.
Yeah. So, and I wanted to just touch base on a couple things there too, where you're talking about, to me, when we're working with the patient in front of us, it's like we throw the rock in the pond, and then the rock hits the pond, and that patient is the initial ripple that you see. But then when you talk about, you're up leveling their standards, their boundaries, you're teaching them like, hey, you have a new standard of health, you have a new standard of life. And then that gets passed down from the parents to the kids, to the grandkids, to the great grandkids. So like, this is generational stuff that's going to get passed off, which is like, that's what really lights me up, is like, I know that when we make that impact on that one patient, that story is then going to be a story that's told over Thanksgiving dinner or Christmas dinner of how their life changed by implementing these, principles and procedures. So I'm really excited about this. And another thing I remember what I was going to write down. Hopefully it doesn't elude me again. But one of the things that you talked about when we were down there is like, when people would be like, hey, can you help me? Or do you think this could be fixed? And one of the things that's always stuck in my mind is, hey, if it happened to one person, then it's on the table, because we have that same power within us. And so fixing that mindset on, being capable of that change is hugely profound. So I don't know if you have anything to say on that.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I believe the big sin slash being off the mark, that's what sin means, is our illusion of separation. Meaning that, like, Dr. J, you're different than me, or someone who's watching this. Oh, you don't understand my life. Like, it's this illusion of separation and non-unity, when really there's a one mind. We all have that, like, there's that innate intelligence, like, hey, what's making my heart beat, my lungs breathe, all that stuff. Like, there's an intelligence that's doing that for all of us. And it's a one intelligence. You guys could call it God, you could call it universal. It doesn't matter what you want to name it.
Right.
I personally call it God, but
Mm-hmm.
it's all one, right? So we share that all. So therefore we have all the same potential. Like, if I see someone, I'm like, if I get frustrated, so what happens? So here's also another illusion: the illusion of right or wrong, good or evil, judgment, guilt. Okay, basically, let's do it this way. When you go on social media and you scroll, right? These are some of the feelings that happen:
Yeah.
right or wrong, good or evil, judgment. Either you're judging them, or you feel judged. Judgment, guilt, because you're not where they're at. Shame, coveting, comparison, and jealousy. And these are all little self things. It's all an
Yeah.
illusion. And because we think, well, look at that person on that boat, or this or that, or having this life. And number one, we don't know what's really going on. And number
Yeah.
two, even if let's say it was all true, let's say,
Yeah.
the thing is, there's that separation in us or this paradigm, this belief system that we're separated. We don't share the one mind and one intelligence. So like they're like when these inventors get ideas from, we have all, so where the ideas come from. See, I'll tell you that and say, so the idea, it's all like a radio station, right? There's radio waves,
Hmm.
like, right? So it's, they're just tuning it. We have access to all that. So it's the illusion that we're separate, and the illusion that we do not have the same potential or opportunity or ability to do what that person does or to have it. So there's an ignorance there. The ignorance, and this is not, ignorance does not mean dumb. All ignorance means is unaware. We're just
Right.
unaware. Because here's the thing, when I see someone who makes, I'll use money. If
Yeah.
someone's making $1 million a year, and there's someone who makes $1 million a month, and there's some people that make $1 million a day. So the reason why, the person who made $1 million a year isn't making $1 million a month is because they're just unaware.
Hmm.
Everything has been created, everything is set up, and all the opportunity to do that is already here. Nothing's new. It's just the unawareness. We're just unaware on how to do it, because if you knew how to do it, you do it. So if
Hmm.
you realize, like Dr. J, you're right. It's like, I'm just unaware of it. So that circles back to, hey, can you help this? And we would say, if the body, anytime in history, if a person had that and the body was able to heal that, now it's on the table. And there are books and there's research and thousands and thousands from HIV, with the
Yeah.
body, there's been an example where the body has healed, whether the person knew what they were doing or not, has healed from something spontaneous, call it what you want,
Yeah.
remission of every single quote unquote diagnosed condition ever made. So in your mind, if it has happened once, it could always happen. Like Sir Edmund Hillary, she stood on top of the world on the top of Mount Everest. He failed to cut, but he got it. As soon as he did it, it was possible. The 4 minute mile, we always talk about. As soon as it was
Hmm.
done once, high school kids are doing it. Like,
Yeah. Like it's
just
nothing.
the
Yeah.
awareness that it can be done. So I just think I always think next logical step when it comes to your health is like what Dr. Jacque said. Can it be done? Is it possible? Yes. Can you name someone? Yes. So now it's on the table. So just the next logical step, because in the hierarchy of emotions, if you're in apathy and you're indifferent,
Mm.
you're not healing. You're the next stage is death, like you've given
Yeah.
up. So from apathy and indifference, if we could just go to even a little bit of anger or possibility that, listen, it has happened. So it
Yeah.
is possible. So now we're getting closely towards neutral. And the state we want to get into in that book, Letting Go, is courage. So
Yeah.
courage means courage doesn't mean like you're 100%, certain. It's like, I have enough possibility in me that I'm willing to go for it,
Yeah.
even though I'm scared. See, that's a beautiful. So if we could get to the level of courage that, listen, it's been done. I know people have done it. I heard stories and I know it wasn't easy, but I'm willing to put the courage into that. That's really the place ultimately, Dr. J, that is the person that I feel you could help the best, is when they have the courage to say, listen, I am scared, doc, but I know if I don't move, if I stay the same, I know what I'm going towards. So I'm willing to put the
Yeah.
courage to go through the journey to have the better life I want to have.
It's like hit rock bottom, like hitting like a rock or a health rock bottom where you're like, listen, I'm uncomfortable in this current state. I'm no longer happy here. And you need that. You need to kind of be pissed off, because that pain is a very strong motivator to push you out of your comfort zone to try something different, because what you tried in the past clearly didn't work. If you keep just trying the same thing over and over again, it's the definition of insanity. So you have to know that it's possible. And I think it's a really big segue into one of the things we were going to talk about, is this concept that a lot of people are carrying around with them, which is the fear of failure. And it could be something from when they were a child, and it could be like a codependent behavior where they never want to fail in front of their parents or whatever it may have been. And then that transmits itself into life, and it becomes everyday practice where they just play really safe, or something that used to say is they play too good to be great. And so when it comes to the fear of failure, I think that's a great place to kind of start on this, because it does change that mindset when you're not afraid of it anymore. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I think the whole thing with failure, I don't know when we were taught that failure was wrong or failure should be something you're ashamed of. I mean,
Yeah.
when we learned how to walk, like no one ever just took the first step, and was like, it was just such a normal part of everything,
Yeah.
right? Just everything, right? And like, so I don't know when we were told or we were embarrassed Remember the time when I remember the time where you wouldn't want to raise your hand anymore because you were
Mm,
afraid of giving the wrong answer and you didn't like the
yeah.
feedback from that. So I think that programmed us not to take the risk, not to take the shot. We study a lot of different successful people because not necessarily their story, but I like to see a part of their story. Usually, every successful person, there's a part of their story where you're like, I may have not had the courage to willing to be do that. Whether it be Elon Musk saying, I was broke and I pulled,
Yeah.
I don't think I would have done that. Or who went through this journey. I'm like, oh, there's always a point where you're like, yeah, I wouldn't be willing to do
Yeah.
that. But you always see that there was some element of I don't want to say like failure, like a course correction, that had to
Yeah.
happen, or a
Yeah.
learning experience or tuition, who
Mhm.
lost a lot of money, who made a bad deal, who had to shut down a company, who had a relationship that didn't work out. And there was some type of tuition, whether it be time or money or something, that something was learned. There was a contrast, right?
Yeah.
And what I know with the successful people, Dr. J, those who aren't successful is they stay a victim in the failure. Oh, I
Mm,
failed. Woe is me. I'm a victim. They point the fingers and they become too afraid to try again or do it again because they didn't like the feeling. What the successful is, they might have had a pity party. They learned something from it, but they realized like the goal, their vision was too important just to just sit, and they course correct and they went at it again and they went at it again. Like, Sylvester Stallone, one of my
yeah.
favorite, 1,500 times. And they said, listen,
Yeah.
why don't you just get a job? And he said this, well, if I get a job, I'm not going to be as hungry.
Yeah.
He's like, so I'd rather stay hungry for what I want. And he turned down his people wanted to take a script and put another actor in there. He's like, no, no, like I'm the lead character. I'm
Yeah.
the
I
lead
built
character.
this for
Like,
me. Yeah.
no, you're not. We're gonna have someone who knows how to act. He's like, no, he sold his dog, all these
Yep.
things. And when you look at him now and he's so grateful and humble, like
Hmm.
thinking like almost he talks with fear, going, if I compromised, if I didn't sell my dog, if I just would have took the $1,000 from my script, and he's like, I wouldn't be here. So just looking back, he's in reverence of like how he stuck to his vision and he put himself in a corner where he had to
Mm,
only go forward. That was the
yeah.
only option. So when that's the only option, you don't see it as failure. You just see it as, well, back to the drawing board, back to the drawing board, back to the drawing board. Because I sometimes, like, when you have two options, it's easy to fall back on option easy. Things are good.
Comfortable.
Don't make,
Yeah.
yeah. So I really think sometimes when you just say, listen, if I put myself in a corner where here's my vision, here's my goal, like a child, I'm going to go for it. So like these failures are not failures. They're there. I mean, they suck, but man, you'll never grow and learn as much. I never learned a lot when things were great.
Yeah.
I learned from, oh crap moments, and I remember in the
Hmm.
office, we used to do that. We used to huddle, be like, all right, guys, they didn't bring their spouse. New rule. No one
Yeah.
ever goes over a care plan without their spouse ever again.
Yeah.
Deal. We're not doing this to ourselves, because what I mean by that is, guys, like we found out when it came to health decisions, so there was a spouse that came in and they found the cause of their problem and their life was going to change. This is quality of life and quality of death. And
Yeah.
they would say, I got to go home and think about it. So they had to relay all this information to their spouse
Mm,
who had the least amount of information. And therefore, the person with the least amount of information wound up making the call or the decision whether that person got well or stayed sick for the rest of your life. And
hmm.
I felt so guilty. Why would I want to be the one who put the nail in the coffin because I didn't stick to, like, listen, a certain procedure of making sure all decision makers were there? So, I mean, I feel failure, but we see it as a learning experience
Yeah.
or something to try again. Because when you really look like, and Dr. J, the reason why I don't think we move ahead is, in life, we want to jump into the unknown life, that new life, this experience of life we never had, but it's uncertain, it's unknown, we haven't been there. But what we do know is, when we make, well, the reason why we don't take that risk is because we know what we'll lose. Like, I know that if I move from where I'm at now, I know what I could lose. I'm not quite sure of what I could gain. I know I could gain a
Yeah.
lot. I know it could be better than life I have now, but I'm not 100% clear what I could gain, but I definitely know 100% what I'm going to lose if I'm here. So even though life
Yeah.
might kind of suck for me, I don't want to where I be, but I mean, it's a perceived loss,
Yeah.
me moving over here. So we have to understand that, yes, we know what we could lose, but a lot of times we don't make that effort. We don't invest in ourselves time, money, resources, or even discipline to go after like a huge gain of health, of relationship, of unknowns, of businesses, of going after your dream. So I really think like it goes back to that condition. People are like, why do we always go towards, why is fear easy? what is the what if easy? What if this happens or that happens? It's easy because we have trained that muscle. We in school, we train that muscle a lot.
Yeah.
Because my mom's a what ifer. My mom's a what if, like, so Whitney, my ex-wife, she got a au pair, right? So au pair is like a foreign student comes in, lives with the family. And he was a guy, Maurice, very good kid from Germany. My mom goes right after the what if, like, my mom's like all Middle Eastern. She's like, hey, the boys know there's no touching of private parts, right? And I'm like, what the hell? Like, my mom went all the way to the what if of molesting. I was like, out of all the what ifs, and I said, like, what is a what if? A what if is imagination. So I'm like, why are we what ifing the worst? Why do we say, well, what if what if leprechauns would gold came to your door? Like, it's all BS anyway. It's all imagination. So why are we programmed, or we're so used to what ifing the worst? Yeah. Because we've been programmed to what if the worst. Like, because it's the same amount of energy, right, Dr. J? It's the same amount of, like, fear and faith are the same things. They're things that haven't happened. And it takes the same amount of energy and the same amount of mind power and the same amount of effort to think the best in faith, or just to think the worst. But why is the worst so appealing, so satisfying? Because it clearly serves you if you want to think the worst. Because we've been trained and conditioned. It's easy to go for the worst, the victim. It feels good because it keeps us from moving forward.
Yeah, it makes us feel safe, even though it might not be the best thing for us. And that's our bodies, our souls, our spirits inside of us. We want to be safe. We want to feel secure. But at the same time, it's a lot easier. And you're always going to be 100% right when you don't try something. So if you're like, well, what if that situation would happen? Well, if we just don't hire an au pair, then I'm right. It didn't happen, so I'm good. So it's like you're stacking these what ifs in a backpack, and those what ifs are eventually going to weigh you down, and you're not ever going to be able to move forward because your mind, every time you do that, it's like another repetition in the gym. You just keep getting stronger. That muscle keeps getting stronger, and you just keep holding yourself back. One of the other things that I picked up from this too is, like, for failure, right? Failure is an opportunity to learn. Absolutely. It's like having a rifle and you have a scope on it. And it could be your buddy's rifle. I'm going shooting today, so I'm probably going to grab his rifle and shoot. I don't know where the crosshairs are going to line up. So I'm going to get ready. I'm going to aim. I'm going to shoot. If it shoots low, then I have to course. I didn't fail. I now have to course correct. I need to point the different direction, shoot it, make sure it's good. Then you have to acquire distance. So there's all these other variables. And the more times you quote unquote fail, the better you get in that craft. So never be afraid to fail, whether it's with your health or if it's with, an endeavor, entrepreneurial, endeavor. Make sure you at least take the shot and then see how it feels. If it doesn't feel right in your soul and your spirit, then all right, maybe course correct to something else, but at least you know that path may have not been for you, even though I'm a huge thing of, hey, if it was told to you, it's for you, whether you like it or not. But that's kind of my mindset on that.
No, right. And I think we could all agree that everybody has a dream that want to do something. When you're kid, everybody does, whether you listen to it or not, or whether you muffled the sound of it, it's there. But everybody in here, there's always this thing behind the closed doors. There's always that, wouldn't it be cool if, just like a kid, wouldn't it be cool if, geez, I would have loved to, only if I could too, man, life would be a dream if I could just do this.
If I only had this. Yeah.
We all have it. We all have that thing. If money wasn't an issue, ...
Yeah.
We all have it. And see, the reason why we think money's the key to it, because we feel that money will give us this opportunity to do this thing we wanted to do, because the thing we wanted to do is going to give us a certain feeling that we ultimately wanted the whole entire time.
Yeah.
All of that is to reach a feeling fulfilled. It's all about a feeling of something. So that's why, the lottery winner doesn't, because it's like, it's all about getting to this feeling fulfilled of what is the feeling? Freedom, joy, impact, right? So it's like, you don't need money for any of that, And in fact, if you knew that, if you could just get to that now and start to do the things you love and care about, like Dr. J, we did chiropractic, he moved and did you were in Pennsylvania, then you went to Arizona because you were following this would be amazing and good. And have a clinic now that's online that could help people all over the world versus a brick and mortar. These were all wouldn't it be cool if, because knowing that it would do free, it was all this feeling. He was following, once there's a feeling that's going to happen from that. And he got into that feeling first. And then because he was in the feeling of that first, then it allowed the journey, it allowed the course corrections easy, because he knew what was at the other side of it.
100%. And there's something that I was typing it down here as I was going through this too. The other thing that could be a huge motivating factor that can tend to discourage a lot of people is the feeling of anxiousness when you're about to do something. And so anxiety and excitement resonate at the same, frequency basically. So through the transition of, going to Pittsburgh and then moving to Arizona and then only working 16 hours a week and just like steadily chopping these things down, before every big decision I made, I had anxiety. And it wasn't anxiety of like, oh, I just got this disease that I have to treat with an anti-anxiety medication. That anxiety I hate that feeling. And I used to have real bad anxiety in college and stuff. So it's a strong motivating factor. And so I would see something, I would get this vision, and every single time that I would get it and I would ignore it, I would then have anxiety. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? And so then I realized, if I have that idea, I'm going to go after that idea. I'm going to make it happen. And then I don't ever feel that feeling of anxiety. So I think anxiety is a lot of the times like it's a measurement tool for how happy you are in your current state of life. And it's designed to kick you in the ass to be like, hey, wake up, stop doing the 9 to 5 or quit this job because it's not fucking suiting you and you're not spending time with your family. And so it's an emotion. It's a response. We have to figure out the cause, just like anything else we do in health. So I think it's important. I really do.
Yeah, all those things are related. Like that's why everything we talk about, we're talking laws. It's something that could be translated into relationship, into business, into finances, into health. It's absolutely necessary. And, Dr. J and I, we found too many times that it would take an act of health terrorism for someone to make a move. There was reaction versus responsiveness. And, why did it take the act of health terrorism to break a thought pattern of doing the same old thing? And it was always a shame to be the last resort. It always hurt when there was damage that was so far done that they're scared and they're looking at mortality, or now the things that mean most into your life are now in the front. And on one end, we could say it's a blessing they got to that level because it made them think differently. But also at the same time, as we educate to be able to get people to future pace, to say, hey, if I could future pace, this is how I am now. If I future pace this, compounding over time, is this where I want to go? And if it's not, you have the ability. Jim Rome said it best. Because a human being is the only species that is able to wake up the next morning, tear up the script, and start totally new again. And that's awesome. What I loved about that. We're like an animal, animals work on instinct. They don't have they can't rewrite the script. We do.
Yeah.
And that is the whole element of choice. But what if? And they're good. But what if? What if I do it and I fail? But what if you do it and you succeed? Or what if you do it and it leads you along all this other journey of unknowns and you meet the person of your dreams or relate, all this beautiful stuff, all the unknowns. I always used to say, like, everything is in the unknown. We love certainty so much, but certainty is getting us the same result daily because it's comfortable. And like, that's to me, like it baffles people to see, well, it's hard for them to accept that their disease or the condition is serving them in some way, shape, or form. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, it's serving you. No. And they want to get mad. And like, it has to be serving you because you're holding on to it. So whether it be significance, it supports the ego's idea of saying, see, this is why you can't move forward. See, you're that, like, whatever it is, it's something that's serving your paradigm to staying the same versus the unknown. But the unknown is scary. But in the unknown, Dr. J, just think the unknown. If you look back, like right now, like the story of Dr. J on how we met, there was all these unknowns. It was not planned. I think you reached out to me on Facebook and this and that, and you were over Atlanta. So nothing was planned, right? So if you look back, everything great in your life, there was these unknowns. Like Steve Jobs says, you cannot connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect the dots looking back. And it's beautiful. Right. It's serendipitous. And there was no way that you could have figured out that recipe. So if knowing that, if you get into the unknowns, in the unknown is where the relationship is at, the new ideas, the gold. The unknown is where all the nutrients for the future amazing life that you're created to have. It's all in the unknowns. That's why being a very routine person and disciplined, we don't like unknown sometimes. So I would purposely write in the calendar, I'm going somewhere, an unknown, even by myself, to experience unknowns, because that's where all these amazing opportunities came from. But we like to stay in what we know, even if what we know, Dr. J, isn't serving us.
Yeah. One of the other things that got brought up in my mind, and something I remember you saying as well, is like, when you coach people and you talk to other people, you're like, in an ideal world, you said, like, if money's off the table, what do you want? What do you want out of life? And you're like, every time I ask that, people are like, I don't really know, but you can tell me what you don't want. And when you say I don't want this, where your focus goes, your energy flows. So you're going to focus on manifesting that. So I wanted to make sure I brought that up too.
Yeah, and it's like a buffet of life. The contrast is beautiful because and a lot, you're right. Like, I don't know. Well, what do you mean you don't know? You do know. Choose to remember. And a lot of
Yeah.
times, but we know what we don't want. So, but here's the thing. So the next logical step is if you know you don't like that, because I know it was great when I entered into my 40s, I really was able to say, I definitely don't like that. I had been here long enough. I definitely don't like that food or this. And it really allowed the contrast was clear. Like if I knew I didn't like that, it clarified what I did like.
Yeah.
I don't like to feel fat, sluggish, depressed, and slow. Right. So that's why, like, I like to feel energetic, my mind clear,
Mhm.
no brain fog, active, limbo. Like, so, I know those things. So then it supports the reason of my activities and what I do. So if you know what you don't want, so we start there. Write down, these are the things I don't want. I know that. So then you write so if you know you don't want that, the polar opposite of them, identifying the things that you do want. So a lot of times, again, you're so right. It's so easy to be like, I don't know, because it seems like such an overwhelming question, but you could tell me what you don't want because we're trained in the negative. So
Mhm.
great. That's awesome. Let's now start shifting that over. So what don't you want? Good. Let's write the polar opposite, burn that paper, what you don't want, and now start looking. See, it takes repetition,
Mhm.
right? To start changing that paradigm, start looking at what I do want. I want a good relationship. I want a secure relationship. I want a job that, does this and promise me that and this and that. I want to be healthy and strong. I want to be vibrant. I want to be able to run, 4 miles in a row. Whatever that is, you start looking at what you do. And then we talked about fears and fogs. And then you look at the things you want, you're like, but I don't know how to do this, or I'm afraid I can't do that, or I'm foggy, I don't understand this or that. And that's when you look at experts to do it. So you either
Mhm.
hire expert. If it's
Yeah.
nutrition, hire someone, hire a trainer. Well, I
Yeah.
don't have the money. Great, go on YouTube. YouTube's got
Sure.
everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just one thing, like crypto. I know nothing about crypto, right? So if I do, I got plenty of information to learn and study. So
Mhm.
studying gets me learning. So all the fears and fogs, that's not an excuse anymore. If you
Yeah.
say you don't know how to do something, there's
Just an
plenty of
opportunity to
information,
learn.
too
Yeah.
much information.
Yeah.
But pick one source. Usually what I do, Dr. J, is if there's someone I resonate to. So what I'll do
Mhm.
is, let's say I want to know more about something.
Yeah.
Go on YouTube and there'll be a couple different people talking about the same subject. I'm going to relate with someone's personality a little bit better. And so
Yeah.
if I relate with that person a little bit better, I just kind of like their delivery, maybe my spirit, just something, right?
Yeah.
Then I'll become a student of them. So what I do is if they have a book, I'll buy all their books. I'll make a video playlist of all their videos and I kind
Yeah.
of be a student and mentor of them, even though I didn't meet them. If they
Right.
have an opportunity of a course, I'll get their course. I'll buy their
Sure.
course. So courses could be as low as $47, some are $1,000.
Yeah.
But whatever it is, like I'm investing in me, I'm becoming a student of this person, learning how to think, and you learn. And then that
Mhm.
that fear of not knowing or lack of education or knowledge, now that becomes awareness. And then you're more certain in that area to move forward. So, if I wanted to learn how to be a chef, I would go to an amazing chef here and work underneath them or pay them to teach me. So it's like there's going back to the thing. If someone has done it, it's possible, right?
Yeah.
So whatever I wanted to do, whether it be relationship, if you see a couple like Buzz and Mary Lou, like we talked about them, amazing relationship, 52 years. And I remember telling Buzz, like, after Whitney and I went through our divorce, I was like, Buzz, I got to talk to him like, Buzz, like, how do you guys, like, you guys got something that I never had. And
Yeah.
he's like, oh, yeah. And then he came to me one day. He's like, today is our anniversary. Of like, congratulations. Like, no, this is the anniversary of like 25 years ago. Mary Lou served me divorce papers. I'm like, really? Right. So he's like, yeah,
Wow.
there's a time where she served me divorce papers. And she's like, we need to make a decision because he was working and traveling and doing these
Yeah.
things. And he's like, I had to make a decision that day. So when you get to see,
Hmm.
when we get to talk to these people who had an amazing relationship, all the ups and downs and course
Yeah.
corrections they had to go through, then you see we built something amazing. And so when you hear about the divorce papers and there had to be a decision and they had to work together and these things and that, like, then you could see, oh, okay, so going through those things and learning from those things. So I was able to learn so much from Buzz
Yeah.
just from asking questions on what seemed like a thing. I realized the different steps that they needed to get there. So back to that, like, if it's been done, guys, you have the access to do it. So this is, I believe, today in this informational age, like fear, knowledge breaks away fear. You could find a way to do it. So, like Dr. J helped me in my office. We had a leak. and we
Oh
had a
yeah.
lot of mold, black mold. They found black mold. So who do I go to? Dr. J. He knows his stuff about mold. I don't know it like he does it. I know black
Yeah.
mold's bad. I know enough, but Dr. J got me the testing. It got me a whole team tested out. Like so, and he did all the protocols I needed to do to get out of there. So you know what that happened? That happened in a couple phone calls where if I had to go and figure that out on my own, I could still be looking for the answer. So this is why we
Yeah.
have people and access today to wherever you want to get to, guys. You are a person with a little bit of knowledge away, and they don't have to be the expert. They
Yeah.
just have to be what I say, a chapter ahead. So
Hmm.
if we're reading the same book and you're just one chapter ahead of me, you can help me because you're
Totally.
just a little bit
Yeah.
ahead. So you just need to find someone who's kind of where you want to go and then just mentor through them. So I just think mentorship, counseling, coaching, everything's there. But Dr. J, why are we so scared to move? So it goes back to the thing again.
Hmm.
If it's that easy, how come most people aren't doing it? It's because they don't have clarification of what they want. What is the thing that prevents someone from saying, great, I want to be this, or I want to improve my finances, or I want to improve my relationship. But what prevents them from seeking help, going to an expert, or studying an expert in order to do so? Is that they were not aware that's possible, or what do you feel is the stumbling point or the interference of that taking place?
Well, I think that we talked about the fear of failure aspect of it, but I think that there's a lot of distractions and excuses. So people are like, I don't have enough time to do fill in the blank. Go on YouTube, and I think you just posted something about Justice playing tennis, and you had 10,000 hours on there. In 10,000 hours, you become an expert, right? So if you had 10,000 hours, how many hours are you spending just scrolling through Instagram or doing something mindless? Take that time and put it towards learning something. And just even if it's 10 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day, that slow roll will start to accumulate success over time. And then excuses that I hear a lot of the times is, especially with either patients or docs that I'll work with, they'll use things like their family. And they'll say, well, I can't do this because of this, or I can't possibly do this because of that. So I think that's probably the fear of the failure, distractions, and then excuses are the top three reasons that people aren't stepping into their God-given purpose.
And Doc, you know, I get home at 6:30 sometimes, and I know I guess I could watch an easy YouTube video on something that's going to forward my future on
Right.
something I want to do. But why am I so addicted to just scroll mindlessly? Like I revel in the distraction. Sometimes I want like a mind numbing process.
Hmm.
So what is the addiction? I don't know, or the like, because if it's not serving me,
Yeah.
so what do I find in needless scrolling to almost distract and numb myself? So like that's the thing. Like I find myself sometimes just procrastinating with
Hmm.
bullshit. I just want to get your because I'm guilty of it too.
Yeah.
Like sometimes it's like I could have spent that, and the 20, 30 minutes I could have played the piano, which I
Hmm.
love to do. I could have watched, studied, I could have taken a nap. I could have done all these other things that would have been better to serve me, my health, my future, and where I want to go. But
Hmm.
what was the appeal to a mind numbing thing? So what's that part of us that just wants to like distract and mind numb?
Yeah.
I just wanted your take on it because I find myself going, why am I doing this? And it's
Yeah.
like eating popcorn. Why
Yeah.
can't I stop putting this
You're
down?
like, I can't do this, or I can't stop doing this. And you're aware of it as you continue to do it. Like, this is not serving me. So there's
No.
actually, if I remember correctly too, there's a doc that talked on this. When you're scrolling, it releases dopamine in your body. And so dopamine, same thing happens when you do cocaine. It's an addictive substance being released in the body. And so you can have dopamine lows. And so then you grab your phone and then you start scrolling and you're like, oh, that's cool. That's cool. Oh, I like that. That's cool. That's cool. And it's so your body is being conditioned to be addicted to the dopamine release associated with the phone. But these things, like, I'm happy that I'm on Arizona time because like a lot of my family's over on the East Coast. A lot of my friends are on the East Coast. So when it's like 6 o'clock or so, I'm in bedtime routine. This thing is nowhere to be found, or it's on the charger somewhere. And that's it. Because for me, like after, we'll say like 30 minutes of scrolling on Instagram, I come off it. I feel disgusting. And I'm like, what the hell? Or I'll get pissed off.
Right. Like I said,
because Instagram will manipulate you and it'll throw an emotion at you. And it's like, I'm scrolling, and all of a sudden, like, I don't know, there will be some political post on there and like, shit. And I'm like, but I should probably click on that. Or like I'll watch JP Sears and I'm like, like he's hilarious, but like, fuck, I didn't want to know that that's what's happening in the world right now.
Right,
you know?
right. So like I told you, it promotes the right, wrong, guilty, judge, shame, evil, jealousy, coveting. And then knowing I am doing this because I'm literally self-sabotaging myself by getting into a vibrational state that is not going to help me manifest or create anything. And a lot of times when it comes to emotions, when
Mhm.
someone says, I feel happy, I feel sad, down, depressed, moody, whatever emotion you tell me. So what we don't realize is when you're saying I have an emotion or I feel this,
Or I
you're
am, yeah.
literally using that word as a description of the vibrational state you're in. So you're like saying like it's like a radio station. So when you say I'm happy or I'm sad or depressed or I ate and I feel lousy or sluggish, you're telling me like you're on this low vibrating state. And here we want to be productive and we want to get these ideas and all these other things, but that's a totally different radio station. It's a totally different
Mhm.
vibrational point, and we can't access here when we hear. So I realized this, Dr. J, that it was one Thanksgiving. I ate great for months and went there and the next day I was inflamed. I was like, and I was sitting there, I'm like, I feel horrible. I literally fasted the whole day. My digestion was off and I felt horrible. And then I put it together. I'm like, oh my God, what I eat actually affects my mood, which we know that,
Mhm.
but even
Yeah.
further, it affects my vibrational state,
Mhm.
which now literally shuts me off from all these high level ideas, genius ideas, opportunities. So I'm
Yeah.
handcuffing myself like
Mhm.
this from access to anything divine, anything,
Yeah.
forward moving. So when I realized that and had that awareness, now that cookie, no matter how much I'm like, to me, that cookie was no, it's actually going to rob me from my future,
Mhm.
because but see, and it's because I got to the place where like, if sugar and stuff and wheat makes me feel sluggish, tired, fatigued, that is now I'm off the radio station. I'm off that level of
Mhm.
awareness that's going to bring me to this next level that I want to get to. So when we're able to understand how we think and function, then you see how it's related to food, relationships, music. A lot of times, like, do you guys know what the lyrics are, the music you're listening to, and you're dumping this into your ears? You're like, you see, I'm
Yeah.
scrolling, and these things are going to these images are going to my eyes, and you really start to protect yourself and be a little bit more selective of these things that you're doing. And again, I get upset. It's like, why did it take me 40 something years to figure that out? It's always been that way, right? See, these are
Mhm.
laws that have always been there. But
Yeah.
like I said, it's not failure, Dr. J, but it's moments in life that you're like, ooh, that didn't feel good, that bring you to a level of awareness or contrast that may be enough. That rough time might be the thing that you're like, enough's enough. So I really think like I never got to an enough is an enough state when things were good. But I
Yeah.
definitely got to like, this is it when I was in a shit state. Like in a split second, habit was broken. Nope,
Yeah.
never again. So I really think when we talk to the failures, like that creates the moment of never again. Like, or
Yeah.
how about, like you said, health? Like you find yourself so sick that you get so disgusted at it. See, the disgusting is the anger. And
Mhm.
sometimes it takes a little bit of anger because that's a little bit of self power to be like, that's it. And you
Yeah.
need a little bit of that anger to go forward into finding a solution. So this is why when it talks to failure, I think it plays I don't like, I don't think there's a negative role to it all. I think it is a catalyst. Like when
Mhm.
I was sick, Dr. J, with ulcerative colitis, that was a catalyst
Mhm.
to changing my entire life. It was a blessing, right? So there was no failure for sure.
Yeah. And I see this from the physical pain being a distraction. I typed it in there. Physical pain is a distraction from the divinity. And so when you eat shitty food, or you go and you have 15 pounds of pizza, or you go to a sushi
That's a
buffet,
shitload of pizza.
I know. It would literally be a shitload. It'd be a shit ton. But so when that happens, I'll have patients who are in like the spiritual realm of things, and I'm like, I'm totally shut down. Like I can't focus. I can't meditate. I can't do my breath work. I feel like I'm inflamed. And when you're inflamed, when your body has physical pain and physical ailment, you are distracted by it. And whether you like it or not. And then past that is like, oh, I've got this physical pain. Now I'm going to take this medication to try to stop this physical pain. Then you just poison your body. And I think was it Win Worley, the pastor that wouldn't even allow medications or anything to be in any of the congregation of his church because it distracts from the divinity because you're poisoning yourself. So I've worked with, I'll text you who it is, but I worked with one of our patients that we had down in Houston, and she was going through this time, and she didn't have like any real like outspoken spiritual journey, but we went through and we rid her body of a couple infections and stuff. And then she was like, this is really weird, but now I'm open to this. And now I'm able to get these downloads and these ones. And now I'm more powerful. And she's like, I didn't know that could happen. And I'm like, well, it's repeatable. It always happens. It's just whether or not you're consciously willing to accept your surroundings. And if we're so focused keeping our head down a lot of the times, we miss those opportunities or the examples that are right in front of us.
And that's why, like, when I help people now, and people in Dubai and stuff like that are top CEOs, these are people that are extremely successful. So the financially, they have everything that all of us watching would want.
Mm-hmm.
Shit, if I had 100 million or $1 billion, look what I could do. I could be a good steward of it. I understand it, but they're successful in one area and their body is destroyed, done. And I never think the lie that being successful means a shit body at all.
Yeah.
It's just that because they never took care of it. And they all come to me, they want to add even more because it's never quenching, right? Without the fulfillment, it's never quenching. So they want to add another zero. And I said, okay, well, they're looking for another mindset hack. That's going to give them the other zero. And I go, okay, let's get your body going. No. I what's here? No. Watch it. When you get that body functioning better, feeling better, exercising, doing that daily, the body, and what it does to the brain, that's going to get you where you need it. And every time, so we get them there through their body. You don't understand, guys, when you get your body where it needs to be, the mind, boom, opens up. You're on a high level because the body thing, because like Dr. J, when you're not feeling good, you're sluggish, or you're used to being sluggish, and you don't even realize what normal feels like. You are not, these guys, people are just, they're hitting high levels in business at a C level. So once they get their body to an A game, and then just like you said, all these things start to, wow, I didn't realize, guy, just messed with you. This is like, you know what? When I heard you talk, he's like, I was like, how the hell is that going to help? He's like, I know what you need now. Like, I wake up, I am like anticipating, I want to do more. Like there's that desire and that urge and that excitement to create. So you become creator again. That's who we are. We're here to create. As a spirit in a physical body, we're here to evolve, explore, create, and have forward progress into doing things that we have not done before. So the state of dissatisfaction. So if you're watching this right now and you're dissatisfied in some area of your life, you're in the perfect state of growth. Dissatisfaction is a mindset of a growth-minded individual. You should be dissatisfied. So when your grandma said you need to be satisfied, your grandma was wrong. All right, that means that you are done creating. Yeah. And you're not done creating. You are here to, you could be happy, you could be great, appreciate things, but the dissatisfaction because you have the yearning to grow and evolve. Dissatisfaction is a beautiful state to be in. And when you give that up and say, I want to retire, I don't want to create anymore. Like Sylvester Stallone, again, at 75, he's still writing movies on notepads, acting in movies, directing movies. He's a painter. He paints, he sculpts, he directs, he does Broadway. He's in all the, like him and The Rock's the same way. All they do is they know they are creators and they just keep creating. And it's a beautiful thing. So when you realize I'm here to create, and what can I put my body in creation? In order to create, you have to have ideas, right? I have this idea, create, so I have an image of this in my head, and then I paint it, or I create it, or I build it. So it all comes in imagination. But like Dr. J said, when you feel horrible, I've been there, Dr. J. It's like, when I don't feel good, it's like, I don't want to read that thing. I want to sleep in. I don't want to work out. I don't want all the things that I feel amazing doing. It's like, when I don't feel that way, I want to self-sabotage. I want to have a pity party. I want to be negative, and I want to wallow in that. And it feels good being a little bitch doing all that. It's like, it is a chemical induction of poor food, poor nutrients. Like you don't realize there was no circumstances that made me feel like that, except the body chemistry changed from putting poor food in my body or having chemistry off. So your chemistry and your body, right, can change these things and actually sabotage you from all the great creative things you can do. That's why what Dr. J says, it's so, when when it clicks to you on how important this is to reach every dream and goal you want in your life, and how that body is truly the key cornerstone to open up your brain, it's a life changer. And I don't know when you're going to get there, guys watching this. I wish I could tell you I got there early. I mean, I'm still understanding, Dr. J. We still are realizing it. Like, oh man, did I miss this out? It is tremendous. So when you start to see your body as the tool to keep your mood and elevation and feeling good at a certain level, not feeling good as symptomatically, but actually being creative again, beautiful things can happen. And then I have courage too. When I feel good, I have courage. I have something called body confidence. I know my body is capable of doing whatever I have to do it. You know, like, so whether it be working extra, reading extra, like I know my body could do it. I could count on my body to go through the process, to get it done, to be there, versus like, you know, because when you're hurt and anchored and you're sick, you lose body confidence. You know, how many times, Dr. J, people don't play with their kids, or they don't do that because they're like, well, if I play with my child, I'm going to pay for it for 2 days. Or I'm going to do this, I'm going to be exhausted for a week. So we start to not do the things we love to do because we don't have body confidence anymore. But when you have the confidence going, well, wait a second, I could perform at work. I could do what I have to do. I could perform in the bedroom. I could be active with my kids. Like there's a lot of amazing, that body confidence, you get to have this beautiful relationship with yourself. And you see this body as something beautiful and nice and helpful, not something that's against you. Because a lot of times when you're sick, Dr. J, when I was sick, I saw my body as an enemy of me.
Yeah.
You know, and it was very frustrating. So I had this horrible relationship with myself until I started getting my health back.
Well, it's like, and I have to throw this example in there, but it's like having a Lamborghini, like we're all born with Lamborghini bodies, right?
Yes.
But it's under a tarp and we don't know quite yet what we're driving. And we start off, we're like, well, I'm just going to put, 87 or like low end fuel in the car. And I'm just going to see how this works. And then you don't realize how to shift it. And you're living life in first gear the entire time. You're like, I can't get the fucking, like, it won't move. Like, what the heck is going on? Then
but it's moving.
But
it's moving. Yeah.
And I get used to this. I'm driving 20 miles an hour, whatever, and it's redlining and smacking it. And then I'm like, oh, wait, what if I press this button? What if I press this? Is it going to, you don't think, oh, if I press this button, my car is going to break. You're like, what if I hit this? And boom, paddle shifter, you go into second gear, you go faster. And you're like, oh my gosh, like, and it did it fast though. Like, what the hell am I driving here? And then you realize, oh, there's another gear. Then there's another one. Then there's another one. And like you said, we can't put a man-made time on a God-given event. So we don't know when you're going to be shifting gears in life. And then eventually you're going to be like, what the hell am I driving? And then you pull the tarp up off the Lambo and you're like, holy shit, I've been driving a Lamborghini this entire time. But if we just realized when we were born, that's the caliber that we were. And we lived, 20, 30, 40, 50 years in like this unknown. But if we just would have been told, and again, parental indoctrinated the proper way, like, hey, your body's capable of doing some amazing, crazy things. The more you start nurturing it, and instead of putting the cheap gas in, you start putting the premium, even though it's like $15 a freaking gallon now. But thanks, Joe Biden. Yay. But really, I mean, you're putting the good fuel in there and you start noticing the performance changes and you're like, okay, cool. And then you're like, okay, well, now I'm going to put a chip in it to help with the engine or, modifications, and you're able to push further. So it's like the sooner we can get to that point, the sooner we're open to learning and not just living in that comfort zone of first gear with the tarp on the car. You start really just taking a look underneath the hood. You're like, holy shit, like, this body that we have, it's capable of so much, and not just my body, but your body and my patients and the people you work with. Like, we're all interconnected. One of the things I've actually been talking a lot about, I don't remember if you remember this one. It was one of the audios that you shared with me. And I think it was Richard J. Santo. And he talked about deer that were dying when the guy was like, they were trying to figure out what killed it.
It was Sisyphus. It was the tannins in the tree.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So Sisyphus. Yeah, and he smacked it with a newspaper, and that tree produced that acid. But then I think it was like 4 miles or something away. Those trees also did the same thing.
It was like some Avatar shit, the movie. Yeah, it was like everything was in it, like, because it was killing the deer.
Yeah, so like, and for people to just live in this numb mindset where it's like, we're not interconnected. We're not. Like, it's a fucking tree. Like, it's a tree.
It's got innate intelligence.
It happens, And there's a pastor I watch, Stephen Furtick from Elevation. He pulled up a quote from, like, I think it was the 50s. And he was like, Back in the 50s, this quote was basically saying we're being exposed, because like the news, the radio and stuff was around back then. We're being exposed to not just like our problems and like our family's problems and our tribe's problems, like the small group problems. Now we're having to deal with everybody else's problems on social media. Like, in translating for now, social media, everyone has pity parties, and we're seeing kids with cancer, and we're seeing this person die in a car accident, this one, and we've got a war over here. So like our bodies are constantly absorbing this negativity, which again, usually comes from these freaking things. So like when you know what you're putting in your body, going back to the Lamborghini example, every time that you're on this, you better be putting high octane fuel. Are you searching for business entrepreneurs? Are you trying to figure out crypto? Are you trying to find things on there as like an education tool to push you to the next level? Or are you putting sugar in your gas tank? That's how I view cell phones, I guess. Yeah, distractions. I guess I just went off on a tangent there.
No, it was good. No, basically just to wrap that up with a nice bow is, it's about remembering who we are, remembering our capability. I think, you're right. It's not that we're just not aware of what we're capable of doing because we just forgot. It's about coming to remembrance of how great we are. And like you said, because we have this illusion of diversity and we have illusion of separation, we'll see an athlete, we'll see someone doing things on a very high level, but we're different. We're separate. No, you don't know me, my genetics. No, like the same potential is always there. Like Justice, my son with tennis, he's irrationally obsessed with tennis. So the act of doing the thing is the reward for him. So it's not the trophy, it's not the goal, it's not the win. He loves the thing. Doing the thing is the reward of doing the thing. So that's the positive influence. So if he's not playing it, if he's not coaching it now, he's watching it. So he sees the act of the thing is the reward. So the byproduct is becoming exceptional. Now, if you paid me per hour to play tennis and it's not a passion of mine, I don't like it, you couldn't pay me enough. I mean, I never would get as good as he did because I just wasn't something that was inspired from within to do. I love the analogy of just realize I got 7 gears on that thing. And each time we're learning, there's another gear, there's another level. And that's another level on every area you look at your life. The last word hasn't been said on nutrition or on health or on sex or on relationships, on finances. It's like there's always another level. And that's where the continued evolution and evolving and learning and awareness is. Like, so if we have that in our mind, like it's never done, it's always progressive. Therefore, there's success. Success was the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. Progressive realization of a worthy idea. So progressive means that it's a journey. Realization is awareness. You always come aware of a worthy ideal. It's something you love to do. And the reason why it's a goal that you love and why it's worthy is because make sure the goals you have in your life are worthy. Why? Because you're trading your life for the goal, right? That definition of success, progressive realization of a worthy ideal, had nothing to do with the destination. There's always progressive realization of a worthy ideal. And there's always a process. So when we understand that, like there's no checkoff list, the list is not going to be done. It's progressive realization. So understand there's a journey because too many times you're waiting for the day to get the feeling. We're waiting for this goal to be achieved to get the feeling when we could have the feeling now, enjoying the journey of it and knowing that we're getting there. Like you say, there's no gestational time on when that goal will be reached. We can't put like a physical, we can't put the gestational time, the time on when it'll happen. All we could do is our part and move forward. We could do series like this for the next 50 years.
Yeah. I mean, but really, and one of the other things too, is when we're talking about, constantly evolving, you brought up like the always trying to go after your purpose. And then also the retirement aspect of it. We're told at a very young age, get a safe job, work a 9 to 5, get a 401k, get this, make a savings account, have this much in your savings account. You get to retirement. And then once you get to retirement, it's like, hey, I crossed the finish line. Your purpose goes away. You stop trying. You're unhappy as hell. And then that's usually when people start getting really sick. And then all that money that you put into those accounts, now you have to start paying for your health to try to get it back because you've been reactive. And it's like, when you hear this, I mean, it resonates with probably 90% of people that are out there, or even 99. And it's like, it's so stupid. Like, everything in life is designed to be safe. And if you're doing everything in life safe, then you're never going to enjoy life. What about riding a bicycle, right? Riding a bike, could be one of the most dangerous things. You could ride out in front of the street and get hit by a car. You could fall and break your arm. Like, there's all of these what ifs. But if you never did it, then you would never be able to ride a bike and go down the street, or a skateboard, or a car. Like, God, I mean, cars are super dangerous. Just the sheer odds of getting into a vehicle. But it's what we've been indoctrinated to fear. And we don't fear the craziest things. Jumping on an airplane. I mean, for God's sakes, those things can go down at any second. We do it. We do it all the time. We don't care. And we don't have the fear going into that. So my challenge for people that are out there listening, like, really do that self-assessment and like, holy shit, like, these aren't my core beliefs. They were told to me and I accepted them as so, but I have the ability to break that generational like indoctrination of what should be. And now I actually know what can be. And then again, the splash in the pond. You've got kids. Teach the kids. You can't force the kids to do stuff, but you can expose them to these real life truths. And I mean, you've done a phenomenal job with yours. I mean, Justice is kicking ass. Like, you know that you've done a pretty damn good job with that. And so we have the ability to pass these traits down to our kids, down to the grandkids, great grandkids, so on and so forth. And then if we can do this, we can hopefully safely, and we don't get a target on our back, but we can safely start to change these generations that our kids are now growing up in. Because, you know, one of the things that Megan and I will talk about is like, we know that our kids are going to be freaks in a good way, like not vaccinated, hoisted in Montessori school right now. Sage is going to be in Montessori as well. And then we might go homeschool. And the kids are wicked smart, and you put them up against, and it's not a competition, but, you know, we're parents, so it's a little competitive. But, you know, but like, you'll hear other kids talk or speak or the way that they act, and you're like, how old is that kid? And you're like, oh, it's 4 or 5. And like, my son has a stronger vocabulary. He's already got the entrepreneurial mindset. Megan's doing sound healing, so he's playing sound bowls like upstairs and hitting the drum with like a very rhythmic beat. Like, it's really awesome. And so my goal is to somehow hijack the education system and basically get these things into play, so that way people can start learning like, hey, it's possible, you're capable, and you're worthy of this life. And it's so important to get them when they're young, to allow them to know that. And then also to be like, hey, don't be afraid to fail. Like, you'll be fine. Burn the bridges so you can't go back, but just keep pressing forward, and you'll be better and better every single day.
Yeah, so I'm going to listen to this over and over again, and I'll take notes. And then we could probably get a lot of we probably get a good dozen topics to go a little bit deeper on. So if you guys enjoy this, and just let us know when you hear it, just write or comment, you know, what are the aspects of it that you heard, that you resonated with, that you liked with things. And then what we'll do is we'll take some of that. We could always expand on it.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. Thanks so much again for being on today.
Dude,
I mean,
great.
it's an awesome conversation every single time we talk. And yeah. So
I have to get out to Arizona, and we'll just put some cameras up and we just talk.
There you go. I got a videographer out here, so if you come out here, yeah, we'll do it. Yeah, awesome, man.
Well, thanks everybody. And yeah, once again, guys, thank you. Please watch or listen to this a couple of times, and please, your feedback is extremely important, because, you know, we do this for you, and, you know, we want to be able to clarify those things. So if there are things that you resonated with, or that you had any aha moments, even if it's just one, please let us know. And then from there, we could always kind of support you. We could show you tools, or we could just help you kind of advance in that journey in any way, shape, or form.
Awesome. Thanks again, brother.